Hey guys, back again. Michael with Tennessee Survivalist, and continuing with my series on the 10 C's mentality. A couple other items I want to talk to you about, or not really items, but again categories, is cover and cordage. The two kind of run simultaneously together. The cordage is fairly simple. That's why I included it with the cover. Cover is where a lot of people get confused a lot of times, I think, or maybe make some mistakes or leave some things out. And we'll get to that here in just a second. First I want to say that a few of the items that I carry in my pack I do not have out here in front of me at the moment, but they're fairly easy to explain. Let's start with cordage though. Cordage is incredibly difficult to make in the wild, if you will. It can be done. We've done some classes on making cordage out of sinew, grasses, things like that. It can be done. There is a huge learning curve to doing that, and cordage is so inexpensive and lightweight, it's pretty easy to just buy and pack with you. Not that knowing how to make cordage out of natural materials is a bad thing. It's a great thing, because cordage can be expendable. It can run out, it can tear up, it can break, it can wear out eventually. There's two main things I use for cordage in my kit. One, I've just got a small piece up here. This is paracord. Some people call it 550 cord. Whatever. I keep a 100-foot hank of paracord plus several random lengths. Most of it made up for specific uses in camp. This stuff's really, really good for temporary cordage. It knots fairly well. It does stretch some. It's not real bad, but it will stretch some. I use paracord a lot for setting up temporary shelters, for anything that I need to be able to set up, take down, and take the cordage back with me. The other thing I use is bank line. Some people call it set line. Basically, if you're doing fishing, it's basically the same thing you use for trot lines or lines on the end of fishing jugs, bank lines, limb lines. This particular, what I would prefer is this black stuff. It's not so much the colors because it's tarred. The tar helps resist the weather a lot. It also helps with its knotting ability. Please bear in mind that bank line is not all created the same. Same with paracord. A lot of the novelty stuff that people are making bracelets and all the fancy colors out of is not as good a quality. Make sure when you buy your paracord, you're getting true mil spec 550 paracord. You'll be glad in the end that you do. Same with the bank line. You can buy this stuff pretty much anywhere that sells fishing gear, especially if they sell catfishing gear. This comes from Walmart. This is not true tarred bank line. Reason being is in Tennessee and most states now, you cannot actually use a petroleum product, the tar, on your lines. Therefore, companies have come up with an artificial tar, I guess, if you will, that works similar to the old tarred bank lines. You can see this stuff is pretty stiff. And the warmer it gets, the more you can straighten it out. It's not loose and flimsy like regular line would be. It's a little sticky. That makes it knot very, very, very well. I use this for any kind of lashing, making tripods, improvised tools, improvised weapons. Anywhere where you're not necessarily going to try and reuse the line, because when you knot this stuff up, it stays. Again, the Walmart and the common sporting goods store stuff is not true tarred set line anymore. It will work though. There are places you can buy real tarred set line. First place that comes to my mind is the Pathfinder store owned by David and Jim Canterbury. They sell the real stuff. It is not legal in most states to fish with. Works very, very, very well for bushcraft skills though. So if you can get a hold of the good, stinky, smelly, nasty, sticky, tarred set line, get it. If you can't or just need something until you do get some, the stuff from Walmart will work, just not as good. That's really it as far as cordage goes. Like I said, the paracord I use for common, everyday cordage. I use it for setting shelters, use it for guidelines for tent stakes, things like that. Even a clothesline to hang your dirty laundry up on. You can hang hammocks with it. World of uses. The set line or bank line I use for more disposable or permanent lashing. If I were building a debris shelter or a semi-permanent camp enclosure of some type, I'd probably use a set line, just simply because it's smaller, it's lower profile, it's easier to work with. Once you knot this stuff up, you're not going to get it loose very easily, though. That pretty much covers the cordage. One other thing you might want to include is some jute twine. Jute works real well for anywhere you need string or cordage, and it also makes an incredible fire tinder. Beyond that, let's talk about cover. Cover is where I see a lot of people making a lot of mistakes or leaving a lot of holes in their gear. Cover can be a lot of things, guys. The clothing on your back, clothing that you may have packed for emergencies in your backpack, a simple rain poncho, gloves, a tent, tarp, whatever your actual shelter is. Most of the time people look at cover as just your shelter, and it's so much more than that. I'm going to go over kind of a general idea of what I use in my pack for cover. For starters, I almost always have my wool blanket with me. This is a 60 by 80, 90% wool blanket. Wool can be expensive, but if you shop around for the military surplus stuff, this one is a Swiss officer's wool blanket. It's relatively thick. This thing has kept me warm on below freezing nights with nothing but just this blanket. Here's why I like wool. Number one, it's incredibly durable. It's just super, super durable. Number two, contrary to popular belief, it's not flame-proof. Wool will burn, but it will not melt and stick to you like artificial fibers can. It'll singe. Fire coal pops onto this. Yes, it could mess it up, but the chances of you getting burned up or hurt badly with a wool blanket is much less. Number two, if this blanket is soaking wet, it's still going to retain my body's core temperature. Unlike cotton or synthetic fabrics, this wool will keep its heat retaining ability even if wet. Something else you can do with the wool blanket is, especially if it's fall or winter when there's a lot of leaves and dead debris on the ground from trees dying off or going dormant for winter, you can make what's called a browse bed, and we'll do an actual video on a browse bed later this fall when I've got material handy. But in a nutshell, you take your blanket, fold it in half, and take your cordage, my bank line is probably what I would use for this, and a large needle, and sew up the bottom and one side. And you do a simple whip stitch. Doesn't have to be super tight and close like you sew on a t-shirt. And stuff it full of leaves, dead grass, all kinds of debris. And if you get it up to, I think it's 12 inches uncompressed, well, I guess that's going to depend. I know around 4 inches of compressed material, that's going to insulate you from even sub-zero temperature from the ground that can wick your body heat away from you. It's also going to make things more comfortable for you. It can be used for all kinds of things. Even in the summer, I'll take this wool blanket with me and use for a ground pad just to cushion myself from the ground a little bit and take away some of the sharp edges. In addition to that, I do not carry a tent of any kind, not even a hiking tent in my pack. It just takes up too much space, too much weight for me. I know there's some out there that are super compact, and I'm not knocking those. If you own one of those or thinking about buying one, feel free. It's just not for me. The dollars spent on that really high dollar 4-season or even 3-season hiking style tent, super compact tent, I can buy other gear with, or buy ammo for my guns, or whatever the case may be. For me, I'm just going to use a simple tarp. What kind of tarp doesn't really matter. I'm going to give you some ups and downs on tarps. The absolute best money can buy, in my opinion, is a waxed canvas or an oilskin tarp. They have some downsides. A 10-foot square waxed or oilskin tarp is very heavy. So much so that I don't even want to keep one in my pack. What I keep in my pack is a pair of 5-foot by 7-foot silicone nylon tarps. Why a pair? Because I can make a very small wintertime shelter with a very low profile that'll fit just me out of that tarp, no problem. I can tie the two together and make a larger shelter for 2 or 3 people, or me and my gear, or a taller roof line for warmer weather when I want a little bit more air circulation to come into the tent out of those 2 tarps. The ones I have, I'll be honest with you, they're cheap. They function. They're ugly. They're bright blue. That's not really a life or death situation, but if you're wanting to not stand out, you definitely don't want those. That's why I don't have them out here. They function for me at the moment. There's several companies out there. Snowpack is one of the first ones that comes to mind, that makes a 10 by 10 silicone nylon tarp that's kind of an OD green, blends in with your environment a lot better. I would recommend one of those if you're wanting a good all-around, extremely lightweight. And when I say extremely lightweight, this 10 by 10 probably only weighs less than a pound, and it comes with tent stakes and all if you buy the little kit. They're just fantastic. Beyond the actual shelter, I keep a few aluminum tent stakes in my pack. They just complement the shelter along with the cordage to be able to set up different configurations of tarps. That way, no matter what my environment or the landscape, I have a way of getting the shelter over my head. These little things are, I'm not even sure where I got these. Coglins, it could have come from anywhere. They're cheap. They will bend if you beat on them very hard. I think I've got, I've got 6 here. At one time I had 8. I've finally broken a couple of them. I do use these quite often. A lot of people prefer the ABS plastic ones. The ABS plastic is just as light as these are, just as durable as these are. They just take up more space. That's why I chose the aluminum ones. The little cords on top of them are junk. The knots are horrible. The cordage is just some kind of cheap nylon. I've just never taken them off and put anything better on them, because when it breaks I will, but they haven't yet. But even though I can craft tent stakes in the wild, no problem, these right here are handy and weigh less than a quarter pound for all of them combined, just because if I need to get shelter up in a hurry, that's one less thing I've got to do is carve out tent stakes. I can slam these in the ground. Rain gear is pretty important. This is just a simple poncho from Frog Togs. Some of the ponchos, the plasticky PVC stuff, I hate them. They make me sweat. They stick to me. I feel like I'm stuck in a garbage bag, which you can do if you have to. I mean, contractor grade garbage bags are a great resource. I do keep a couple of them in my pack, just for any number of purposes. This little fella here, though, your body will breathe through it, but it will keep you dry. It's made just like the military ponchos. I could actually make a shelter out of it if I needed to. Packs down this little bag. The little bag doesn't weigh, poncho and all, maybe 3 or 4 ounces. A schmog. This may not be necessary for a lot of people. I use them for tons of stuff. Can it be not only to keep a little bit of wind off of you, wrapped around your neck or your face. It can be used for the same for sun, especially if you get sunburned easily. You could use it to conceal your head or your face or neck from temperatures. It can be used for lots of things, filtering water. If you get close to heat exhaustion, you can keep this thing wet, keep it wrapped around your neck, underneath your armpits, any of the key areas to help your body cool off if you start getting overheated. Lots of other things that do the same thing. Something we'll discuss a little ways down in some of the other videos is bandanas. They're a great resource. The schmog will kind of fit in with it if it's 100% cotton. The thing a lot of people don't think about is some type of gloves. A lot of people will pack just plain leather work gloves. These are a cheap knockoff of Oakley tactical gloves, but they work pretty well. They've got a good leather palm. They're all double stitched. They've served me well, and they'll suffice when a work glove is needed, but tactically they also give me a good snug, smooth fit so I can shoot my guns, things like that with them. You don't necessarily need anything like this. I would recommend a glove of some type to work with, something that if you're handling firewood, felling trees, anything like that, will keep splinters out of your hands. It can protect you slightly at least when using your knife, axe, hatchet, anything like that. The main thing with cover is cover also includes your clothes. Dress weather specific. Needless to say, layers are always best. No matter what time of the year here in Tennessee, the weather can change rapidly at any time. I've seen it 90 during the day and damp and cool at night. Always keep something to keep the wind off of you, keep moisture or rain off of you in your pack, even if you're not wearing it. All that combines to go with your cover. Your clothing that you're wearing, clothing that you may have packed, rain gear, protection from the elements with the means of hats, ball caps, boonie hats, a cowboy hat, toboggan hat, whatever. Anything to help keep your head and your face protected from the elements, schmog, scarves, anything like that. Again, it all works together, and most any of these items can be used for other purposes if you ever need to. Like I said, a rain poncho can be used, most any of them, even the cheap ones, can be used for a shelter if need be. A schmog or a scarf can be used for not just keeping the elements off of you, but filtering water, dipping in water to wrap around you to help keep you cool or to cool your body back down. You can even, the schmogs I like because you can even use them for an improvised sling if you had an injury to an arm, if need be. Gloves, they're going to protect your hands. Not just from work, like lifting a lot of heavy objects or swinging your axe or cutting firewood, but if you had to dig a hole out for a latrine, your fingers are going to get really sore if you end up having to try and do it with just your bare hands. Having the gloves helps a whole lot. But when you combine any element of your cover, be it clothes, be it accessories, be it your actual shelter, with your cordage, then there's unlimited possibilities. Everything from shelter that it was designed for, it's all about protecting your body's core temperature, but also for medical and first aid uses, like making a sling like I was talking about, collecting rainwater, even using your tarp shelter for a drag mat to help you haul in that 180-pound deer that you just shot 3 miles from camp. Just another way of using it for conveyance, same as your cordage. Whatever you do, I would highly suggest at least using these ideas to build your cordage and your cover system for your gear to suit you. That's all I got for right now, guys. Thanks again. As always, please subscribe. Hit me up on Facebook. Shoot me any kind of message you may have as far as questions or comments goes. Until next time, guys. Appreciate it.